Hey everybody, it's the Dynamite Show with Paul Fontaine and Jeff Hawkins, and we're here to talk about Quake at the Lake, which, judging from Twitter and from a conversation we just had, this could be a fun show. But a few
I'll
things we
be the
want
judge of that, Paul. We'll see.
few things we wanted to chat about before we get into this show we just watched. Jeff, you had mentioned a couple of the injuries, and I'm aware of the injuries, but I'm not so much aware of the details or how long they're going to be out. So I assume you may have more, or what was really the talking point of
I
why you
wish I
want to
had
talk
wrote
about it?
this down, but as also said on Boom.
Yeah, yeah, I did hear it on the Boom about Matt Menard.
Matt Menard is he torn labrum,
Yeah,
torn rotator cuff, and I have to say, Paul, to quote Michelle Branch, can you look at me in the eyes and tell me that you're happy now,
no.
Mister? I'm gonna insult Matt Menard
I
every week.
like Matt Menard. I just don't think he's a serious character, and at least now he can do his comedy. I mean, he's showing up on TV every week. He's cutting these
Yeah,
goofy promos. Um,
still doing run-ins. So
yeah, still doing run-ins. I mean, I don't know. And then Statlander, what happened to her? Because they just announced that tonight, and she was on Dark.
dark tapings. Looks like she injured her knee,
Oh, so
and she
during the
already.
match?
I believe so. I
Okay.
believe, and I think that may be the one that she had surgery on before.
Oh, geez. There's a lot of injuries in AEW.
Yes,
Yeah, and why is that?
a high impact, highly athletic style, and probably marathon tapings. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like with Statlander, I mean, I was just thinking today that
Also,
I
knees are funny things, and when you're
true.
using
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
also
yeah.
let's face it, as we've gotten more athletic in wrestling, we've also gotten softer mats.
Yeah.
And not enough is said about that, I think, at times. But I mean, because of how the knee works, when you plant the knee on something soft, sometimes it might give.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the safer style that WWE does, I mean, they still get injuries, but they
Yes.
don't seem to happen as much. So I guess maybe these are the times when the fact that Tony has about 5 times as many people as he needs for the amount of TV time he has, it's probably a good thing, because you can. But then you kind of look around and you wonder, like, okay, well, who are they plugging in, and where are all these people? And like, I mean, we saw a lot of people on the show tonight. Um, and I'm not sure what some of them were doing.
Well, the thing about an injured body part is it doesn't always come back stronger. Sometimes it comes back weaker, and
Hmm.
knees are like that. Knees are funny things. It could be, if you're, I have a rebuilt knee myself, and it
Okay.
sometimes and it gives on me. Sometimes I still wear my brace for like heavy lifting or skiing or stuff like that, just to have it, just because I'm nervous about it because I've had it slip on me. But there's some people who come back just as good. And it's one of those things where I always watch, like I watched when Seth Rollins came back from his knee injury, I watched him quite a bit, and he was very ginger at first because he was a little nervous about it. He was wearing the brace underneath his underneath his tights. And and Dax has the same kind of injury as well.
Hmm.
I mean, I have that same kind of brace. It's one of those things where even those braces now, if you look in football, offensive linemen and even some defensive linemen now wear them as preventative versus just after something weakened. So it's one of those things where once a knee gets hurt, it's kind of a crapshoot how it comes back sometimes.
Yeah. I wondered if maybe part of the coaching that maybe these wrestlers aren't getting is how to work differently when you're coming back from an injury. Like you just
Yeah,
talked about
that's
with Seth,
possible. Or
you know?
I'm gonna do my style because they're
Yeah.
expecting me. They're expecting my package out there,
Yeah.
what I do, and if I can't, then I'm really not the same person. Blah blah blah. But in WWE, it was always that was the thing. It is people
Yeah.
pay to see who you are, and that's why people's gimmicks don't change, and that's why their offense rarely changes, and they never really get to make that kind of shift, especially as they get older. It's one of those things where it's like you're watching Rob Van Dam do like flips in slow motion at times
Yeah.
because it's like, because hey, the people paid to see Rob Van Dam, they're gonna get the Rob Van Dam that they remember type of thing. And so yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to do that.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess too when you're wrestling and maybe you're only on TV, once a month or maybe not even that often, but you're wrestling on Dark and Elevation, you want to make the most of your time. So you're wrestling those matches kind of all out where you really probably shouldn't be.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like if Statland, if they're getting injured on these dark tapings, like they're probably putting in a little more effort than you need to do. Maybe. Again, I didn't see the injury. I don't know what happened, but
Yeah, that's why
I
TV
think
tapings used to be squash matches.
yeah. Well, and so are dark. Like the dark and the elevation are squash things, but
Well,
you
they're
know,
50-50 squashes a lot of times,
yes, yes, yeah, and the wrestlers that they're in there, I mean, they're trying out, they're trying to make a name for
Mhm.
themselves in some cases, and so you get a Chris Statlander against random indie wrestler from Jersey Pro Wrestling. They want to have a good match,
And they wanna get
and
their stuff in so that they can
yeah,
look a little bit good and maybe they get
yeah,
signed. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And then the other thing you wanted to talk about was our buddy TK.
Mhm.
And you think with these interviews that he's been doing lately, and so you brought it up, and I wasn't familiar
Well,
with it. So
do the first half of what we're gonna do first about the two night
oh yeah, yeah. Okay,
pay-per-views.
so I thought you were talking about, because I saw I've been kind of wading my toe into the Fight Game Media Facebook group water over the last few days, and I saw a post that somebody made about I think it was David, about, whoa, what do people think about AEW going 2 nights for their pay-per-views? And I was like, I'm not, no, I know, I don't think they should do 2 nights of pay-per-views, but I do think they can piggyback a Ring of Honor show the night before. Especially if you're doing a Sunday TV pay-per-view, you could do Rampage on Friday, Ring of Honor on Saturday. There's no reason you couldn't do that. I think they'd get a lot of buys, but I don't think we need Double or Nothing for 2 nights. But the thing, so Tony went on Busted Open Radio, I think it was, or something, and he basically buried Dustin Rhodes. Said, "Oh, did that come from Dustin? Yeah, we kind of talked about it, but we weren't serious, and we shot it down right away." Kind of thing was the story. But I don't know that you need to bury Dustin like that. I think he
No.
should have just said, we're considering everything, and if we think it's a good idea, we might do it, but right now there's no plans to. That's all he needed to say. He didn't need to. The way he said it tells me that, yeah, we had this conversation, but it wasn't serious, and we're not doing it. And he
Good.
mentioned, yeah, no,
But
it's good.
we'll get into your first part there about the Dustin thing in a second, because Tony needs to work on his savoir faire, so to speak.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I mean, look, I want AEW, and this was the point I made in the group as well. I want these pay-per-views. I want to separate the wheat from the chaff. I want these things for pay-per-views. For me, I want a pay-per-view to be memorable. And I know that there's probably a little bit, a little bit of old school in this, but I mean, when people ask what pay-per-view should you watch, there's one or two AEW ones that come to mind, but I mean, it's like, but I mean, in terms of my fandom, the two I always suggested: Great American Bash '89 and WrestleMania 17.
Okay. You said AEW, you meant like in
No.
general.
There's a couple of AEW's ones. But
Oh,
I can't
gotcha.
remember.
Okay.
I can't remember what they are right now. I think Full Gear from last year.
Yeah,
is
that
one
was
of those.
real good. That's
Was
the one
real
where
good. I mean,
Hangman won the title, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would rather have a tight 3.5 hour, even 4, if you will, pay-per-view,
yeah,
than the Jam Band concert. And look, if you did AEW pay-per-views for 2 nights, you'd have 2 6-hour.
Yeah.
Everybody gets all their moves that they want in,
Yeah.
because somebody can't say no. I want more no in pro wrestling. I just want your best, and I want it to be blow-offs of feuds that you've been building for a couple months. And I want to be able to say, okay, I can go back to that. Not just a match, but an entire show that was a full menu, that was paced out properly, and then I can go back and watch it. And it had multiple moments and matches that I can watch and remember, as opposed to, well, I got to fast forward this because this was the segment that, so-and-so was in, or whatever. It's one of those things where it's like, I'd rather have you leaving me wanting more than wearing me out. I think that's my problem with AEW pay-per-views at times. It's just like someone was complaining about the video packages in WWE pay-per-views, and I understand that. If you are watching all at once or whatever, I understand that, but I appreciate the video packages.
Yes.
For for 2 reasons. Number one, gives me a chance to go to the restroom and grab snacks.
Right.
I know that seems weird, but watching the last 2 AEW pay-per-views, Um, I'll get to the other positive first. It also just replays why we're here in the first place.
Yeah.
And the entire angle. I think that's good storytelling, so to speak. Look, the angles aren't always good. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it gives a viewer a recap of what's happened and how we got here.
Especially if you go back and watch it later.
Yeah.
And
AEW pay-per-views feel like you're at a Brazilian steakhouse.
Yes.
And it's nothing but meat and meat. But it's you're at a Brazilian steakhouse where they want you to leave at the same time. So about halfway through your meal, they just start stacking meat because they're rushing through things and they're telling you, eat it, put this down your gullet, and get out, kind of a thing. And it's like it's like, I hate steak so much, and you start crying. It's like
I paid for this. I got to keep eating.
I paid $50 or $75 to come to this place where they'll feed me meat, and they just won't stop feeding me meat because they won't let me enjoy it. It becomes, like off an assembly line, and there's 3 waiters looking, are you done yet? Oh, you're not done yet? Here, have some more, have some more, have some more. And you're just like, God, I want to talk to my date. Go away. That kind of thing.
That's why Forbidden Door was so good, because they didn't do that. They had a lot of like good matches, but they didn't like overload it. I mean, and whereas like I don't necessarily want 10 4-star matches on a pay-per-view. I'd rather have like 3 that are like really good, and then a couple, okay matches, and maybe even a squash match.
Menu. I'd like a squash.
Yeah.
A couple of matches with a stipulation.
Yeah.
Something heated in there.
Yeah, maybe something that builds to something else down the road. Yeah. They don't all have to be blow-offs. I
want some really finality in a pay-per-view match, because God knows I don't think we get a lot of that. We get a lot of, hey, we beat them at the pay-per-view and now we're having a rematch on Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's like,
All Out is going to be built around Punk and Mox and the Trios Tag Team title tournament.
Right.
And there's nothing else matters. There could be 8 other matches that'll all be great, and there probably will be, but it doesn't matter.
But it's not prologue, story.
No.
Obstacle, it's not there's no hero's journey involved in this whole thing, where it's like you get various levels of obstacles until you meet your final goal or anything. No, it's just these 2 are having matches, and now we're gonna have another one.
It's TEW.
You know what? That was going to be my point coming up, but please continue. Because
let's get into the second part of the Tony Khan media stuff, because I don't even know what you were talking about, because
I forget where it was, and it might have still been busted open, but there was this story somebody brought up to Tony about the talent who, for lack of a better term, have been complaining about not being used. Or, there've been a little bit of shots in the media through certain sources and certain news aggregators that so-and-so isn't happy or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Tony kind of got a little defensive about it and talking about, hey, you know what? I have all these people on this roster, and I have 2 promotions, and I'm trying to, I can't please everybody, blah, 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 blah.
Ooh.
I want Tony to be less out there. I know it's fan service for us, and look, one of ours is there, but at the same time, the negatives is one of ours is out there, and he feels like a message board guy running a promotion at times, a little thin-skinned on the criticism. There's a little. I put this out there, and somebody got into it with me, but it wasn't a direct 1-to-1 comparison. But you remember when WCW really started to get hot with that NWO angle, and they decided they wanted to make a NWO only promotion.
And then Bischoff
and Bischoff started kind of getting a little bit more in the media and a little bit more defensive about it and all these other things. That's what this feels like a little bit to me. These are problems you created for yourself. We didn't need ROH back. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think I think it's built more on nostalgia than it is on a profitable business model. I think you need, and WCW was way hotter when they were thinking about doing this spinoff than AEW was when they were thinking about doing their version of a spinoff. If you have a roster that's too big, that's your fault.
Yeah.
Also, that's the thing. I'm like, well, my roster's too big. Well, that's because you were signing way too many people
You know
and
who
then not
else?
using
You know
them.
who else did this? Was WWE with
Yes.
ECW,
Yes.
and it was a mistake. They made the most money off of that by doing the reunion pay-per-views and selling the DVDs. Trying to run it as a separate promotion was a money
Mhm.
loser,
Yes.
and it also diluted the product. And now it did end up, kind of morphing into NXT, which I think was a net positive. But it
I
wasn't
wouldn't say it
necessarily
morphed. I think
the
I think
plan.
NXT I think NXT came out of necessity.
Well, yeah, but I mean, literally, like the ECW time slot went to NXT.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
You're correct.
so I mean, that's kind of what I mean. And they had the goofy, like, kind of, MTV challenge kind of thing to start it off, and then it just became an actual developmental.
I want a little more mystery in my Tony Khan. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be honest with you. I want a little more mystery. I want him a little bit quieter, to be
Well,
honest
we
with you.
talked last week, I think it was last week, about the 15 different EVPs they have now. Can you not send some of these guys out to do these interviews?
How about you send out talent to do interviews so they get themselves
Yeah.
over and seem
Well,
like
that
bigger
too.
stars? I
Well,
mean,
Christopher
that's
Daniels,
yeah.
the Young Bucks, Pat Buck,
Yeah, it's a little bit
Papa
too
Buck,
it's a little
whatever other
back
Bucks they have there.
it's a little back padding, isn't it? Hey, this is my
Yeah.
creation. I'm here, blah blah. Send your champ out. Moxley's great.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that. Punk's great.
Well, I mean, they
Danielson's
do
great.
that.
They have them out a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean,
But
really, and don't answer business questions.
no, Cody used to do this stuff and he was great at it.
Yeah, but he was a little bit too out there too. It's like the loose lips
Yeah.
sink ships, and I'm a wrestling is a carny business at its heart.
Yeah.
And I kind of, I don't always want to know how the sausage is made. I kind of like being surprised, and it's weird because somebody like was hinting, yeah, you gotta watch SummerSlam. Why? Don't want to tell you. I want you to enjoy
Yeah.
your surprise. I like that. I don't need to know everything. I don't need to be omniscient about it. And it's a story being told by an omniscient narrator at times, but at the same time, it's just like, the media scrums are fine, but he's never really answering anything. It's just out there to kind of scrub his own self and, tell me how great this pay-per-view was right now type of thing. And I'm just like, you know what? Just say behind the scenes stuff are going to stay behind the scenes and go to it.
Yeah, and you don't need to go on Busted Open every week and
Yes.
answer whatever random questions Bully Ray had pop into his head.
Yeah, well, I don't see, I don't know. I like once a week and that's it. Maybe once a month.
Yeah.
But then I'm seeing different outlet. He had an interview with this. He had an interview with them.
Yeah.
He had an interview with them. It's like,
you're just mad that he's not interviewed by us.
No, I've never asked. I've never wanted to because it's one of those things where I'm afraid I'll say one of the things when I was doing Shake Them Ropes and Rob McCarron, it was still with Figure 4 at the time, came in. It's like, I'm going to interview him and you're not going to be on there. I'm like, why? Are you afraid I'm going to say something? He goes, yes. But every time I was on with a guest and the interview was flagging, guess who saved it? This guy. Yeah, because I didn't talk about the things that everybody else talked about.
I tried to get CM Punk on after the
I knew that. Yeah,
Twitter
I remember
thing.
that. But,
And,
the ROH historian thing. Yeah.
I didn't get a response.
No.
Surprising.